Everybody, welcome back to the Just Make It Pretty podcast. I am super excited about this episode today. We are talking about SEO myths and misconceptions, and I have one of my favorite SEO professionals, Anna, here with me to talk about it today. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Just Make It Pretty podcast, the slightly unhinged marketing podcast for home builders and beyond. I'm your host, Sarah Haynes, also known as the Pixel Wizard, and my goal is to tackle the tough stuff that goes in behind the scenes in marketing and offer actionable tips, creative insights, and a little bit of humor to spark some creativity. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's get started. All right. So welcome, Anna. I'm so excited to have you. So for all of our listeners here, I have known Anna for 5 or 6 years, I think, or maybe even longer. We've been working together. She's an incredible SEO expert. She does pay-per-click ads, SEO, and she's just also a really great human. So I'm really excited to have you on today, and I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself as well.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm really excited to be here today too, and I'm really excited to talk about SEO. It's one of my favorite topics. Yeah, looking forward to that. And just background about me is I own a digital marketing agency too, and we've been working with you, like you've said, a lot. And yeah, our focus is on digital advertising, like you said, and SEO in particular. So that's our specialty, and I'm excited to be able to talk about it and share some insights today. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Yeah. So this SEO topic, I feel like every time I get clients come to me or even just in conversation, there's so much confusion about either what SEO is or how it works. It changes a lot. And then I found that a lot of companies, unfortunately, in your space, offering this service, they make a lot of like unrealistic promises. So I've come across a lot of ads. I've worked with a ton of clients who have worked with companies where they're like, we guarantee you #1 on Google in 1 month. Or they just throw these things out there, and without really understanding how it works and what that actually means, people they just don't really get what they're looking for. And so it gives it a bad name, or they get frustrated. So I'm excited to talk about this because I think that the more we can break those down, the easier it's going to be for not only for us to do a great job for our clients, but also for them to be able to know even what to ask for when they're talking to third parties and stuff like that. So yeah, did you have anything else to add to that before we get into, I have all these really great questions and myths. So I'm going to start there. Do you want to add anything before I get into that?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Hopefully this will be helpful for people to, like you said, when they're talking with someone to help with their SEO, to just be a little bit more educated and know kind of what to ask and what they might be looking for or not looking for when they're looking for someone to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Before we get into that, I have our random rapid fire questions. So as our listeners know, this is just to get us warmed up, give you a little bit of information about our new guest here, and just to have a little bit of fun. My first question for you, I try to find the most random questions I can possibly find. Think of these. My first one is, if you could live in any era, like past, future, what would it be and why?
And I have two that I would want potentially. One in the past. I think it would be fun to be living in the time of ancient Egypt when they were at their height, because I find that culture really fascinating. That would be I can't decide that or the future, because I feel like the future is going to be really exciting, and it'd be just crazy to jump forward and be like, oh my gosh, look at all these things that people have now, this technology, these like hovering self-driving cars. Like, this is cool.
Get flying cars at any point. That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny. I would want to go back to where they have the big poofy dresses, but only for a day because I feel like they'd be really hot. But I want to wear a big poofy dress someday.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, what was your very first job?
Oh, my first job. It was actually working at a pool during the summer. I was the admissions person.
No way. I was a
Yeah.
lifeguard. That was my first job. That's so
Oh,
funny.
nice. Yeah. Yeah, I was
Awesome.
too lazy to be a lifeguard. I was like, can I just sit in the office and let people in? That would be great.
Yeah, we had a really small pool, so we didn't have separate people. We also had to do that as the
Oh,
lifeguards.
okay.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay, would you rather read a book or watch a movie?
Book, for sure. Yeah, if I had to pick between, I think the books are just always better. There's more detail there that a lot of times gets lost in the movie because it has to be within a certain period of time.
I would agree with you. Books are better,
Yeah.
but it's faster to watch a movie. So
Yeah.
sometimes I fall to that.
Oh yeah, I still love movies.
Okay, and last one, so we can get this unhinged part of the episode over. What is your one habit that you'd like to pick up this year?
Maybe journaling. I feel like it's something that I'm always like, it could feels like it would be really beneficial because I think when you write things down, it helps your brain process and maybe remember better. So probably that. I don't know if I'm going to promise myself I'm going to do it this year, but I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea. I love
Mhm.
that. Wait, I've been thinking about that a lot, like what kind of habits I want to pick up.
Yeah.
It's so hard. There's like a whole list, but journaling's a great one. I want to do yoga. I think that's my
Oh,
first pick
yoga.
right now, like yoga in the mornings, but we'll see. I've done it like 2 times and then it didn't go very far. So not doing great so far.
Yeah. It does feel nice though when you do it right in the morning, whatever your habit is for the day, because you're like, oh, I already feel like I did something, when you
Yeah,
pick it off right away. Yeah.
it's true. It's just like you just got to do it.
Yeah, you got to do it.
Okay, let's get into our first myth here. The very first myth that I have is related to kind of general business challenges. So I hear this a lot with like new or companies that have like new websites or like I've
Yep.
just done their website or new businesses in general. They're like, if you
Hmm.
make a website and you make it beautiful, people are going to come. They
Yeah.
expect you to launch that website and then phone is ringing off the hook. Like, it's just amazing. We had clients standing there waiting for it, which is
Yeah.
great. And I would love that. But that's not really how it ever happens. And then even if we have set up SEO or we've done something in general, like they get frustrated because we did that and then it's been 3 days and I haven't gotten a call. That's the kind of thing that I'm seeing. Anna, can you explain why SEO is so crucial in making sure your website gets found and maybe why, if you've heard that same issue or why you think that is?
Yeah, no, I've heard that a lot. I think people do just there is a general idea that like if I have a website, it's going to show up. It's that saying, if you build it, they will come. And I
Mm,
think that there is some truth to that saying, but I would add a little bit to it. I think it was born in a time where there were physical spaces. Your website isn't really a physical space. It's not necessarily guaranteed that you have foot traffic walking by or car traffic or a sign outside out front that people can physically see. So it's a little bit different with a website. And I think, how that myth kind of came up is I think people just don't understand how it works. So when you're talking about if they build it, if you build it, they will come. I'm talking about if you build your website, people are automatically going to come to it. But I think the they in this case, one part of it for a website is your audience, your target customers. You want them to be coming to your website. But the other piece of it for a website is search engines. So the search engines have to find the website and know it's there and know what pages are on your site and what is on those pages. So you have to use, that's what SEO is for, is to connect that dot where you're saying, hey, I have this great new website, Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever search engine you're using, come check it out. And now once they've seen your site, then it's eligible for to show up in search. So that's just one piece of it. So I would say maybe the saying for a website is if you build it, they will come if they know it's there. And so the know it's there part is where you use SEO to help people find your site. And the other piece of it too, I think, is that SEO tends to take a little bit of time because it's a lot of times one of the factors with SEO is that you have authority content on your site or it's trustworthy. And so a business that gets started, it's their first website, you're a new business, there's not a lot of information out there about you. You don't have a lot of reviews online. And so oftentimes it takes, even if you have SEO, like an SEO foundation in place, and you've made your website really easy for search engines to crawl and understand, it still takes some time for them to understand that you're a reputable business. And so that's where if you launch the site and you expect you're going to get just naturally going to get people to it and have calls coming in the first week, that's not really realistic unless you're doing something else, you're advertising or you're getting people to your site in another way. So
yeah, there are things you can do to boost it, but yeah, it's not like that Google takes a minute to crawl the site. I think also companies that like revamp their site, they have that same idea. It's okay, we
Mhm.
know our site was a mess before, but now we've done this. I'm expecting instant results. And that can
Yeah.
also take a while, especially with what you were saying about authority. If you've been working against yourself for a while, it's going to take a minute to undo that. And then for the new tactics and the new strategies that take place.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you brought that up because I do think a lot of times with a revamp too, what a lot of people do is they'll rearrange how content is on their site during that. And
Mm.
just rearranging like that, you want to be able, like, that is something that can be confusing for a search engine because they are like, oh, you don't have that page anymore. That means you don't have that content anymore. Now I can't show your website for that, when really you've just moved it somewhere else. And so there are things you can do too when you with from the SEO side to make it easier for search engines to know, hey, I updated this. I moved some information over here, and you can actually give search engines that instruction so they know.
Yeah, that guide. That's really important. And
Mhm.
a lot of even web developers, I think they forget that part of it, and designers and stuff.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and I mean it's easy to forget because it's
Yeah.
just you're focused on making this beautiful functional website. And so that's like another piece that maybe it isn't your specialty if you're a developer and you don't know a lot about it, but you can definitely build a great website. So yeah, it's easy to just leave that piece off.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. That kind of it goes it's another episode that I've done, but like there you can't expect one person in marketing to know all of these things. That's why there's Anna's out there in the world where you have a specialty in this because it's so much more than just, oh, I put keywords on a page. All of those things you have to really understand when you change a website or you move something. But yeah. So that
Yeah.
kind of goes into my next myth though, too, is that you only need to do SEO once.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they'll either launch the website or they will revamp, they'll do the SEO, and then they're like, okay, that's done, check. And they expect it to move forward with them. So when I'll say we want to make additional updates or your website is a living, breathing thing, that's the line I always say. Like it's they don't really see that as valuable. And so I've always had that conversation of here's why this is a valuable part of your marketing strategy. But it's a tough one.
Yeah.
So why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that SEO is often looked at as this one-time fix?
Well, I think it is because I think part of it might be because people think of their website in general that way, where they think, oh, I built it. I don't need to do anything else. It's built, it's there. Oh, I did that SEO on it. It's there. So
Yeah.
it's just thought of as a thing that's just you do it once. I think in the context of home building, you build a house once, but you don't just build the house and then leave it and don't maintain it. So it's your website and SEO can be thought of in the same way where you need to maintain it to keep it functional, to make sure it retains its value, your house is still usable, things aren't breaking down. And so I think people don't really think of it that way right now though, but that's really how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely true. That's a good analogy too. Like you got to change those air filters and all the little
Yeah,
things
right.
every few months. You got to do it. What do you, so in the terms of SEO and like an ongoing strategy, what are some of those kind of changes that you might make, or what is something that you recommend people like maybe need to spend a little bit more time on or focus on in their marketing strategies for going into a new year or whatever, like as they're budgeting that out?
Yeah, I think the thing is to understand a little bit about why you want to even be making those continuous changes. We said it's like the house, you got to maintain it, but what does that really mean? Like, why do you need to maintain it? And I think there's just a lot of things with how websites function, how search engine function that are constantly changing. As an example, in every search engine, they change on the daily how they surface results. And so
Oh,
how they're
nice of them.
choosing, what'd you say?
I said it's so nice of them. It just makes our job so
I know,
easy.
right? Yeah. And a lot of times it's minor things, but they do bigger updates multiple times a year. And a lot of people, some people, if you've looked into SEO before, you might have seen some information about that. Oh, this big change happened and all these websites are losing traffic. Yeah, so it happens multiple times a year. So that's one thing that you want. That's why you want to be up to date and keeping your website up to date with some of those changes and how the search results are surfaced. And then the way people search changes. So what someone was using as the terminology yesterday, maybe they're using something different for the same thing, today. So you want to keep up with changes in how your audience is searching for the things that you offer. And then also competition changes. So, a new competitor can come up, or a competitor you've had for a while might start investing more in SEO, and then their website starts showing up, higher in the search results above you, more people are going to them instead of your website. So you want to stay on top of those changes. And that's why you want to be investing on an ongoing basis in your SEO. And those are the things I think you should be looking at, just some of them. And then there's technical pieces with your site, and that really does refer to how search engines are understanding what's on your website. So that's one piece of it. And then what people actually see when they're on the site, that the on-page content has an impact, a big impact as well. Not just for how search engines understand it, but then, when your audience is on the site, what are they doing? You also get some insights about how people are using your website, and you can use that to improve it. And that's going to help with your SEO too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Websites really should, like, you should be analyzing all that, in my opinion, monthly. Would you agree with that? Monthly is a good kind of cadence for that?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That,
I think it should be ongoing. Monthly is like your minimum, but having people, yeah, just working on an ongoing basis and then analyzing, like you said, there's insights happening all the time. Looking at it, some trends over time, I think is really beneficial for SEO because it does move a little bit slower than other things like advertising. So looking at the trend is really helpful too.
yeah. Yeah. And so for home builders too, we use this analogy, and actually my business partner, Sherry, came up with it, which I wish I would have because it's so good. But she compares your website to like your model home. And,
Oh yeah.
builders build these beautiful model homes. They spend even $1 million, maybe sometimes more, maybe, but they put a lot into staging that home and making it like the most beautiful representation of what they can do. And your website is the exact same thing, only online. And I have never found a builder that's just, oh, I built this model, but we never vacuum it. We don't put new furniture in. Dusting is not a big deal. They put a lot of effort into making sure that looks really good. The landscaping's always perfect. The house is always really nice. And that's what you want to do to your website too. You've got to keep it nice and upkept. And your website's going to last probably a lot longer than those model homes, even. So, investing that money into your website is such a good investment that it gets overlooked, but it's just so crucial to the success of your business.
Yeah, that is a great analogy. I really love that. Yeah.
No, I
I
hate
say
that I
that,
didn't think of it.
yeah, we always talk about it like it's your best salesperson. Your website
Mhm.
is on 24/7, and most people are going to your website before they actually call you or get in touch with you. So they're reading that and looking at that. You might as well be
Mhm.
putting your best information on there and your best foot forward there because that's what everyone's looking at first.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I love the model home analogy. That's great.
Wow. I know someday I'll think of an analogy that is that good, but not yet. Okay, so our myth number 3 is ranking number 1 on Google or whatever is always the goal. Yeah, I hear this all the time. It's like, how do I get to number 1? And it sounds really easy. It's really not. And I guess like people really just want that out of the gate with like organic. It's the same thing as, I built this website. Why am I not number 1 yet?
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to coach people into like more realistic goals and timelines on how that can happen. And I know I've heard you talk about this before as well in meetings and things with people. Can you share a little bit about what your thoughts are on ranking number 1, and is that realistic? Is that really what we should be looking at as our like number 1 goal?
Yeah. No, this is a great one because I do feel like this is what everyone, when you first talk with them, a lot of times this is what everyone's like, I just want to be number one. I want to be number one. Which I think being number one is beneficial for when it's a relevant search. It's beneficial because we do see more people click on that first search result. But I would say really being number one is a stepping stone and it's not necessarily the end goal. And being number one, you might be number one on one search. And is that the only one that you're trying to get people to your site for? So you want to look at it holistically and know that you'll never have an average ranking for your website that is number one, just overall.
Yeah.
Like you won't, that will never happen. So
Yeah. I've
there's too
even
many
had like
assumptions.
I've even had businesses where they're like, I want to be number 1. I'm like, okay, Google your business name. Are you number 1?
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
And
Right.
sometimes they're
There you
not
go.
even number one. Like sometimes there's someone else that comes up before them.
Yeah.
So it's you got to keep in mind that it's not just people don't just search one thing.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
and so there's a lot of like nuances there. Plus, you've got ads that are going to show up in Google.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
so sometimes people will be like, I want to be number one because I'm spending XYZ on ads, or they
Yeah.
have this small budget. So does that affect like how you would explain a realistic timeline or like realistic expectations? How do ads play into that?
Yeah, the ads. Yeah, actually, that's interesting. I think the ads, those are like a pay to play. And you can actually, there are ad strategies where you can say, my goal is to be the first ad that shows up, and that's what I want to pay for. Doesn't really matter if anyone's clicking on it. So it's interesting. But yeah, I think that ads can be used if your goal, if you have a certain super relevant keyword that you are like, I know this is what everyone is searching for when they find my business or when they find businesses like mine. So it's really important to me to be showing up there, be as close to the top as possible. You could use ads to do that. But I think, again, it's like back to your business goal. In the case of ads, that goal is what we'd call it an awareness goal. It's not going to matter how many clicks you're getting. It's not going to matter how many people are actually submitting a lead. So I really think people should focus on the end business goal and how do I use my ad strategy or my SEO strategy to move towards that. To move towards the end business goal. I want a certain number of leads, or I want a certain number of leads that turn into customers. So you really want quality. And I would just say that's what you're trying to get when you're using search engine strategies, ads, or SEO, just high quality traffic that's going to become a customer eventually. So yeah, I would just say looking at those things. And then I did want to touch on one other thing about the ranking number one goal when you're doing that organically. I think for a lot of people, you just to be realistic about it, there's a lot of, and I'll use the home builder space as an example, but there's a lot of huge brands, national brands that have invested a lot in their websites and they're spending millions. You've got Zillow, you've got realtor.com, and for a lot of builders, a keyword like new homes near me, that's going to be important for them. But if you're spending thousands and these other brands are spending millions to invest in their
Yeah.
SEO strategies, it's going to be really difficult for you to compete with them. And maybe you showing up in the fourth position or the fifth position, you're still getting a lot of really high quality traffic for that in your area, and it's better than some other keyword that you're ranked number one on. So that's why I say just focusing on what's happening after someone clicks and really focusing on those things. So yeah, and being realistic in that way, just you're not always going to be number one. There's other competition that you're just not able to compete with on some of those broader, more general terms. So yeah, keeping
Yeah.
that in mind.
For sure. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I know too, like where people are when they're searching, like their location, their device, like that also
Mhm.
changes how you're going to show up in that ranking. And it's really interesting because I've tested that like in person because at first that's ridiculous. Like, why would that be? But it really
Mhm.
is. If I go somewhere not at my house, like I get different search results. So
Mhm.
that's something that a lot of people don't really realize either. So
Yeah.
how do you work with that when you're setting up SEO?
Yeah, I think that's where you use an average. And I think location is super important, especially if we're talking about real estate.
Yes.
But so when for that search, new homes near me, that what shows up is definitely location dependent, right? Because you've said it has to be near me where I am right now doing this search. And so yeah, it's just that you want to keep that in mind. You're using an average of when people are seeing your site. And if you there are techniques you can use to show up for people that are in your area. And so that would be more relevant traffic for you. So just keeping that in mind too, and just knowing a lot of times I think people will Google their brand name or they'll Google something. They're on vacation, but they're Googling something that they would expect their business to show up. And then they're like,
Yeah.
hey, I just Googled this and it didn't show up. You're in a different spot. And also,
Yeah.
it's really just about like the search engines are trying to show something that's super relevant. So that's why they change it based on where you are. They use your search history too. If I've been searching for cars a lot and I search for a specific type of car, I might see different results than you if you haven't been searching about cars. And so
Yeah.
that's just something interesting too. So it's another reason where like that number one goal is it's your number one for everyone every time on all device. So
Yes.
there's that too. So let's just keep it to what's happening after someone comes to your website. Is the organic traffic leading to leads, leading to customers? That's really what's most important.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so myth number 4 on my list really is about that top position again, and it goes
Yeah.
into a little bit more of paying for that top position. So because of all that we know about your organic search, is it worth it to pay to be at that top position? And like, how does your SEO, like, if, because I feel like ads are a faster way. You're like, oh, I can pay this and I'm going to get number one, and end of story. Whereas SEO is like the long play. So how do you balance those two? And what's your recommendation? Should we be making number one our goal for ads?
I usually don't recommend that for ads because again, it goes back to what we were just talking about with
Mm.
like, why is being number one your goal? It's really about getting quality traffic. You think if you're number one, you get more quality traffic that leads to more leads. With ads, you can just say, what I want is the leads. And then the search engines are using a lot of AI machine learning tools where they will show your ad when it's most likely to lead to that outcome versus just showing up first all the time. I think
Yeah.
there's specific instances if you've got a new product, perhaps, and you really want people to know that you have this now and there's some other competitors in the space, maybe that's a time where you can be introducing your new product and getting awareness around that and using that as your number one goal. Or if you have a lot of competition, we sometimes see other companies bidding on your brand name because they know you're a big competitor in the space. If you don't want them showing up first and they're using ads to show up, then that's maybe another opportunity to use that position-based goal for your advertising.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the idea too that I think you said this a while back. You were like, your ads are going to be an amplifier of what you already have set up.
Yeah.
So if you don't have an SEO structure, the ads are not going to be as effective for you. And what I hate to see is businesses throwing thousands and thousands of dollars just down the drain on ads, aren't getting them what they need. And the second they turn it off, their rankings just plummet. They have nothing as a foundation. Those two really go hand in hand. We know that. But in your opinion, how can we maximize the impact with ads and SEO working together?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you may have said this analogy. Advertising is like renting the space.
Mm.
And so the thing to consider about that is as soon as you stop paying, as soon as your ad budget runs out, all that traffic, all those customers that came from ads, they stop immediately. Versus SEO, where, if I had, let's just say I had $2,000 to spend in this month. Once I stop spending on SEO, I still see people coming to the website. It doesn't just dry up right away, immediately stop the way ads does. So it's like you've bought the house and you have this value now versus where
Yeah.
you were renting with ad space. And so I think that's just one way to think about those two strategies together. But I think if you want to be I think they're really both valuable for different reasons. I think for advertising, like we talked about a little bit here, is just that is faster and you can just say, hey, I want to show up for this. And so when someone searches this, I want my ad to be there versus organically, that'll take a little bit of time to get there. It might take a couple months to get there. In the meantime, you can use your advertising to show up when people are searching for that. So I think that's a way to fill in the gaps or use advertising for things that you're not showing up organically yet that you think are still
Mm.
really valuable. You want to be there. So while you're working on your SEO and your organic side, you can use advertising to fill that gap.
Yeah, that's the key. While you're working on the SEO in the
Hmm.
back end,
Yeah.
waiting for that organic to catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just always sad to me when I see companies that have spent so much money on these ads and then for whatever reason they decide to stop or budget dries up and then
Mm.
they're just like almost a worse place than they were before they even started advertising. And
Yeah.
that's just so sad to me. It's so heartbreaking. So I'm like that you need to have not only the foundation, but like an ongoing strategy to make sure that you're still going to show up once you turn
Hmm.
those ads off. And I love the idea of do your ads so that you start showing up faster, but you're still like building that. Do you feel like
Hmm.
ever SEO organic SEO ever replaces ads completely?
I think it can. Yeah, I definitely think it can. I think that a lot of people don't invest in it enough for that to happen. So
Mm,
that's why most businesses, and I think it's easier for people to understand advertising too.
yeah.
And it's quicker. So you see the results right away. You don't have to be patient and kind of wait. Oh, I have to wait 3 months, 6 months to really start seeing that same volume of traffic. So I think that's why that happens, where advertising is just this like easy to understand, it's quick, I'm going to invest in that. And then because I'm investing in that, I'm not leaving any room to work on my SEO within the budget I have. So I think that's probably why it doesn't happen more often, but you can definitely replace ads eventually with your SEO.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
would be awesome. That's going to be such a
Hmm.
big investment in the long run.
Yeah,
Okay.
SEO, you're not paying for every click. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Beyond that long-term value you get, it's just that, hey, if 1 month a lot more people are searching for this and you're showing up organically, so you just get a lot more clicks. You didn't pay a lot more that month for those clicks.
Mm.
So it's really nice that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right. I'm sure you've probably also heard of the unrest generally with the whole AI and news, the way that search is happening and this zero click searching. I know I've gotten a lot of questions about it. There are some people out there that are knowledgeable in it and they like are talking about it, but they're far and few between. Like I feel like a lot of people really don't understand. And because it seemingly is changing so quickly. I have seen a lot of companies that are like, we're just waiting to see what happens with that. And like it's freaking them out. And I think AI is great, but
Yeah.
you do have to understand it and stay on top of it, especially because it's changing like our websites now. So what have you heard? What have you seen in this area?
Yeah, about the AI overviews. It's
Yeah.
kind of interesting because a lot of people are concerned with people they're not going to come to my website anymore because it's just the answers on the search engine results page. And I think that has actually been a big topic within the SEO space for a long time. If you remember, just last year, there were things called like rich snippets, they were called, where it would just be
Yeah.
like one answer that showed up first, and you didn't have to click through the website to see it. So that's been a thing for a long time. I will just say it had an impact, but it didn't have a big impact. And so I think people with the AI overviews, those are changing right now. We don't know long term what that's going to look like, and maybe I could see at some point the AI overviews just become what the search engine results page is, and we don't have any of those traditional listings anymore. But I think the best thing for people to do right now, the changes are happening. It's another one of those reasons to stay up to date on SEO
Yeah.
strategies and be investing in that. But yeah, what Google has said about their AI overviews is there's nothing you need to do differently to be showing up in those. And I would just say, if you look at those results that show up there, a lot of those websites and the information that's showing up is what's showing up in the traditional organic results. So, you'll see company ABC is in the AI overview, and they're also the first three results, the traditional results. So it's really, as long as you have your SEO strategy in place, you're showing up for some of those things, right? Like in the traditional search results, you're most likely showing up in the AI overviews. And I think for people who are concerned about less traffic, I would just say that those AI overviews are really for the research phase. And I think once someone is ready to make a purchase or get in touch with someone, take the next step, they're still coming through to your website, and they probably did see your brand name in the AI overview, even if they didn't click through to your website. So I
Yeah.
don't think the highest quality traffic, the ones that are ready to convert, I don't think AI overviews is really impacting that right now. So I think we're okay there, but it's definitely an evolving, changing thing. So definitely something to keep on top of.
Yeah. If you think about it too, like AI is not coming up with anything that's not already out there. Like it's
Hmm.
already on that information's already on your website. So even just
Hmm.
investing and making sure that you have good quality content on your site, that way it can find you and you're the site that it says, "Oh, they have the answer to this." So it's yes, it's changing the whole landscape and
Yeah.
I heard that 60% of searches now include that AI generated overview, but it's still just looking at your website. Just it was to show you in the regular listings. So
Yeah, exactly.
content's still important. And the other thing too, I think a lot of people when they're like, oh, someone found us from our website,
Hmm.
or they walked in to our model.
Hmm.
People don't just do that just out of the blue. Like, they've probably seen you on social media, or they saw an ad, or they searched something and you came up in the AI thing or whatever. It takes a lot of different touches. When they drive by and see your sign, they're like, oh yeah, I liked their house, or oh, I saw that model or whatever. So
Hmm.
you're still getting that, and you still show up in those results. Like, they still put like where their sources were. So it's just
Yeah.
another touch point where people can be seeing you. And like you said, in that research phase. So just keeping everything nice and clean, keep everything branded, keep all your touch points on all of the platforms. Like I said, I don't get freaked out by AI, but I know that a lot of people do. And I think the only way to make that feel better is to talk about it and to just keep working on understanding it and what's coming up.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think that's why it's a good thing to stay on top of because I think it is. It's so convenient. Those AI overviews have grown so much because it's convenient. We're just like, oh, we don't even have to go to the website. We can find it right there. And then if I do want to know more, I know exactly where to go to get it because I your website is linked there. But yeah, I think just the way that those AI overviews are being populated is based on how the search engine technology understands your website. And so if you already have that in place with your organic strategy as it is, the traditional links, you're showing up there already.
Yeah. And I think people search in questions now. Like, I feel 10 years ago, searches were so different how you would type it in. And
Yeah.
now I literally just type in exactly what my question is, or even like the voice.
Mhm.
So AI just taking that and this is understanding it a little bit better to like give you the results, but it's just making it more conversational for people that
Yes.
are searching. It's
Mhm.
just your
Yeah. Yeah, it's easier. It's you feel more understood. And yeah, the relevance is so important. So it's gives you super relevant results. Gives you more than you thought you needed actually sometimes. So you're like, oh, yeah, okay, that's related. I'll look into that too. Yeah,
yeah.
it's really convenient. I don't think it's going away. I think we'll just see more and more of it, just in different ways.
Yeah. And it's
Mm.
not here to screw everybody up. Like, it's literally here to make that better and to make
Yeah.
it easier to find
Hmm.
information. So when you think of it as something that's working for you and working for
Yes.
your customers to find information faster and better, that takes away that like scariness of, oh, we're never going to be found again. It's no, you're just helping your clients do it easier.
Yeah. Yes. And in turn, they will be happy about that. It's a win-win,
Hmm.
I think.
Think about it too. Like, everybody thinks about AI as like this all-knowing robot thing. And if this all-knowing robot thing is recommending your business and saying this person has the answer, it's almost like an extra like review of, hey, the social proof, this is the company to go with.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly. Yeah, it's that same benefit you were getting from the traditional results. If Google says my website has the answer, people trust you more automatically. Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good point. If you're showing up in the AI overviews, people automatically have a little more trust in your business. Mm.
yeah. Yeah. I love them. I absolutely love them.
Yeah.
So all right, that's all the myths I have. I think this was a great conversation. I love talking to you about this. I feel like I could go on forever, and I think we have in past
Yeah.
weeks. We've just talked about it
I
forever.
know. I could talk about this for days, so
Yeah, so we'll have you back to talk about more. But I want to
awesome.
give our listeners some like actionable steps, like things that you can do right now, things that you should
Mhm.
be thinking about, just moving forward, what they can do on their own, but also if there's something that they should be asking like third parties. So, what are
Mhm.
your best recommendations for that?
Yeah. Oh, I think one of them would be that everyone should have a Google Search Console account set up. So that account is a free account, and it's essentially where you can tell Google, the biggest search engine in the US, you can say, hey, I have a website. I have these pages on my website, and then Google knows your site is there and it's for free. You're basically you set up this account, you submit a sitemap, it's called, where that lists all the pages on your website. And now Google knows, oh, there's this other site here, and maybe I should take a look at what's on it. And that's really the first step for any showing up in any organic results is the search engines need to know it's there and need to know what's on it. And so that's just like a free way, a free tool. It's really easy to set up and you could probably do it in half an hour. So I would say go to googlesearchconsole.com or I think it's search.google.com or something. Maybe we can link to the
Yeah, I
link to
can
the
put the
page in
link.
the show notes or something for people. But yeah, I would do that. And that's just get a step in the right direction. And even if you have a website, you've had a website for some time and you don't know if you have that account set up, I would ask whoever helped you set up your website or just find out, do you have it already? And if not, it's still beneficial for you to set it up if you have a website because you can, for any changes you're making to your site, if you have that sitemap there, it's just a way that the search engines can know, oh, changes were made. It's a little easier for them to understand. So the easier you make it, the better chance you have of showing up in search results. So I'd say definitely do that as number one. And then other things that you might ask someone that you're working with, I don't know, just maybe asking them, because I think SEO is really complicated. I think that's why a lot of times we don't know what to ask. But I think just having a conversation about just saying, how are we trying to get more quality traffic? What are we doing? And that's something that anyone should be able to answer. And just to tell, here's some things I'm doing on a regular basis. Here's some things that we've done in the past. And if they can't answer that question, then you know that's a red flag. Maybe it's time to move on to someone else who's working towards quality and not just quantity for you.
Yeah. And I see a lot of SEO companies, they just set it and forget it. The
Mm,
same with like ads too.
yeah.
They just set them up and then they don't never look at them again. It's like you should be getting reporting on those. You should be making tweaks to all of that. You
Yeah.
should have ongoing, we tried this and now we're gonna try this other thing. Just remembering that it's not I'm gonna pay for this one time. And so it when you're interviewing a third party to do that, ask
Mhm.
about their plan. Like, how do you do that? When do you analyze it? When do I get reporting? When could we make changes if we change our goals or our strategies? Like, how would that work?
Yeah, I love that question.
Like just, I really think you just have to have open communication. That's the
Yeah.
number one thing in pretty much all of life. Just communicate and you'll be better off. But
Mm.
yeah, ask a million questions.
Yeah. And I think that just, yeah, I think probably the worst thing you could do is when you're working with someone else is not ask. So don't feel like, oh, I don't know, that might be a stupid question. I wouldn't feel that way. It's your business. Take some responsibility there and ask the questions, even if they might be something that you think is silly. I think it's worth asking. Don't be afraid to ask, really.
Oh, for sure. I ask so many stupid questions every single day, but that's how you get so smart. So
Right? That's how you learn things.
yeah. All right.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. This has been so much fun. I am going to put some links and everything and in our show notes, I will be linking Anna as well. Where would be if somebody has other questions or wants to reach out to you, where would be the best place for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, I think the best place is to go to my website. It's intigress.com. And you can contact me there, and it's intigress.com. Yeah, and you can find me there. Just you can send us a question there, and someone on our team will get back to you. But yeah, I run all the SEO strategy. So if it's about SEO, you'll be talking with me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. And I'll link that in the notes as well. Also, if you have questions, I will be in the comments. So feel free to comment. And if you like the episode, give us a rating. I know each platform is a little bit different. I know Spotify has a rating. Once you've listened this far, you can give us a rating for the episode. So I'd really appreciate it if you did that. Thank you so much for tuning in to this myth busting episode of the Just Make It Pretty podcast. And I will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye, everyone.
Bye.